Hello, welcome back. We're going to work on the experience section next, and we're going to follow the same kind of formula when writing this section as we would as when we answer interview questions. The STAR or CAR formula you might have heard, describing the situation, describing what the task or goal is or alluding to that somehow, describing what your actions were, what your inputs were, and then what the result was. So we're going to do this really briefly in a resume, but we're going to make sure that we start with that action verb, talk about what your inputs are and what the results were. Why, to what purpose? Why would this employer want to value what you had written down? So something like answered high volumes of telephone calls and emails each day to what? To provide excellent customer service. It can be as simple as that, but just adding that little result really takes your resume from the basic duties base to an accomplishments based resume. And that's definitely what we want to do. We want to talk about how you do things better, differently, quickly, compared to the person next to you. So how two people doing the same job, how it might look different. We can also talk again about what you are known for, those informal recognitions, what you have a reputation for, what it became the go-to person for. Any of those things can also be in here, as well as formal recognitions. Some people like to have an award section or recognition section. I usually say it's better just to kind of work those in to wherever you were when whatever the position was, how it relates to that position. So you did this, you provided excellent customer service because you were very thorough and you were a great listener. And for that, you won Employee of the Month. So that's how a more formal recognition might look on your resume. And that just might be a bullet point. Another bullet point I like to use to start things off is promoted for. Why were you promoted to the next position? And that kind of helps people. If you've had multiple positions in the same company, you can explain that in one bullet point instead of listing out different positions within the same company, which can look a little bit confusing to the reader. They're not sure if you changed companies, went back and forth. So I'll also talk about different kinds of experience headings. This is the heart of your resume. And we want to make it really clear to the reader what your skills are by ensuring that those are right at the top. So you can have an experience section, you can have a customer service experience section, and then maybe you have another section that has whatever background you're coming from. So I had someone who had an engineering background and she wanted to move into marketing. So she got marketing experience through volunteering, through nonprofit. So we can have a section that says marketing experience, and then because that's what she wanted to highlight. And we can put those projects that she did as a volunteer in the top section. And then we can have other experience, engineering experience, work experience underneath that. And then that would emphasize, it's a different way to reorganize your resume to emphasize what you're trying to get across as the most important thing to the employer. So a couple of different ideas there. I'll also tell you, I tried to record this video again, and it was just too much. It was too long, and I am going to do something a little bit different to keep the pace up here. So let's move on to our more completed resume, and I'll show you kind of what resources I used to fill out these sections, and we can kind of dissect the language that's being used. So like I said, we have gone through all these different sections, and hopefully this will make your resume stand out a little bit more because you have these more complete looking sections. We added these skills. We added information surrounding our education and training. We want to make sure that all of our dates are listed in reverse chronological order from most recent to the furthest in your past. And I did add this projects heading here. So if you did have any other certain projects that maybe you did from school, or again, if you want to move something that is really relevant to the top of your resume, you can absolutely do that. So social media content creators, they want to put the projects that they have done for friends, things like that. You can make that its own heading. If you did a project as part of your education, you can either put it in the project section, or you can put it as a bullet point under the appropriate place in education as well. So lots of different ways to frame your experience. So if you were going to add a project section, one way you could do it was still follow that same format of having the job title, just like we had up here. We're going to italicize our job title. So give yourself one, and maybe that would be talking about what you contributed to the most, talking about where you did it. So this one, we put the name of the paper and then also the place. And then we have the year over here. And then we're going to talk about what you did. So this one really contributed is our action verb. We were very specific with numbers, how much you did, how big was this project, how many people you worked with. All of this is important to really paint the picture of what kind of team worker you are. And then submitted the paper for publication. That's the result of it. And maybe it's earned an A, maybe it's met an extremely hard deadline. Those would all be results. So now if we go down, we can look at an experience section. And I definitely prefer the word experience over work history or something like that, because experience is, again, relevant. It's and it's also, again, cast that wide net. Experience can be volunteer work. It can be paid work, unpaid work, all sorts of different options. So I prefer to have the experience, but again, we can make this customer service experience and just make it a little bit more specific if we wanted to. We can have, again, pharmacy cashier is the first job I listed here. And we're going to make sure that we keep it the same format, right? So in this one, we have italicized, regular writing, and then the year over here. So we're going to be sure we're going to do that the same way, italicized, regular writing, year over here. And one thing I want you to notice is this hyphen between the dates. So if we just type this out, I'll retype it, you'll see these small hyphens. But for a date, we want the long hyphen. So we're going to add a space, hyphen, space. You're going to hit the number, space again, and then delete that space. And then you get that long hyphen in between your dates. If you format your dates month and year, make sure that you keep it consistent all the way down. That's the most important thing. So whether you choose just year or month and year, make sure it's consistent throughout your resume as much as possible. There's some areas where that might not make sense, like graduation, but I think keeping it month and year throughout, especially within your section, is going to be really important. So moving on. So our first action verb here is assisted. Up to 40 customers a day with selecting and understanding their medication needs to ensure safe usage and minimize drug interactions. So talking about pharmacy cashier, which is pretty entry level, not even a pharmacy tech. So painting that picture for the reader. How many customers? Were you busy? Were you, not so busy? Was the particular service that you're bringing and the particular kind of flavor of service that you're bringing, is that more, helping people really intensely one-on-one, or is that being able to do things maybe really quickly? So those are just kind of different ways you can kind of paint what work, kind of your work style when you're communicating. And again, that just really makes you stand out against the other applicants that are saying more generic things. Showing a little bit of personality as much as you can in this format is going to really help you, and again, make you stand out, because people want to connect with other people. They don't want to connect with someone they feel is a robot. So going on to the next one, you can kind of see we did the same formula here. Coordinated is our action verb. Information via phone and email from doctor's office, insurance agencies, and patients, communicating urgent needs accurately and professionally. So that is the result. Again, if we had a more specific result, that we could really pump that up even more. But this is a good starting place to get you in the practice of writing this. So something that would be more specific is saying, how often did you do this? So we said 40 customers a day at the top. Did you deal with 5 emails a day or 500 emails a day? That's a very different day. We want to paint that picture again. Solved cash register shortages and overages by keeping a close audit on medication inventory, which resulted in earning Employee of the Month. So like I talked about earlier, we can talk about those formal recognitions and talking about why you got them, not just that you did. And also, if you have any of those customer service surveys, this is a great place to work that in as well. This is how you format if you're self-employed. So if I had a dog walking business, I would give myself a job title. Some people want to put business owner or founding owner or CEO. If the jobs you are applying for aren't the CEO or founder or company founder or business owner, and they're probably not, then don't put that title. Give yourself a title that makes sense and matches the jobs that you're applying for. So here I have dog walking at service. This is something that you probably don't think about, is really the business side of that. So if you're doing your own business, you are always negotiating, right? You're always advertising, as I emphasize down here, and you can easily keep those metrics. Some people also have questions like, what do I do if my workplace is not in business anymore? Or what do I do if the company I owned was just maybe a family business? Absolutely still include those, especially if they're relevant. It's not necessarily on you to make that information available if it's just not available, right? There's nothing you did wrong in that situation. Some people feel like they can't have that on their resume, but you absolutely still can. You still did that work and you still deserve credit for that work. And again, with family businesses, I think a lot of people downplay their contributions there as well. Still include it on your resume. Still include the work that you are doing. I always tell the story, if you are in landscaping and you work for your uncle's landscaping business and you pick up a 50-pound bag of mulch, that bag is not lighter because your uncle owns the company, right? You're still doing that tough work and you should still own that and take credit for that. If you are having a difficult time thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start, I don't know what to write, let me show you 2 awesome resources that can help generate ideas of where you can start on making these bullet points. And notice we're just doing 2 or 3. If you want to minimize a job that's not relevant, you can have 1. If you said this job was super relevant to the job I'm doing, I would say 5 to 7 is probably sufficient. In some cases 10, that can get a little lengthy, but yeah, I would say it just depends. You might be saying, Carmen, I'm having a hard time coming up with what I did. I'm just too close. I'm in it every day. Let me switch to another screen and let me show you some resources that can help you generate ideas on what you should put in your resume. The first resource I want to show you is a great website called Job Hero. You can go over here to resumes. You can go to resume examples, and let's put in our medical assistant. We see front desk, middle reception, admin assistant, medical. Let's try admin assistant. And this gives you some ideas on what to write in these different sections. Again, just giving you some verbiage that sometimes when we can't see the forest through the trees, right? So this person, wow, they did an instructor position of not really where we're at right now with the resume we're writing. So let's move on. This for 9 years, 2 years of this job. These are actually taken from actual resumes. And so it's just a great way to get an idea of what people are saying. So handled all filing and records management. So that's something that you probably have done. You might not think of it that way. And we know what we learned from before, we can kind of pad that out, and we can add handled is an action verb. Filing could also be manage the records, could also be our action verb. So those are some different ways to write that. Managed over 1,000 patient records to ensure high levels of confidentiality. Maybe that's how we would rewrite that phrase. So that's a little bit stronger. But again, this website is just great for getting some ideas. Say, do not copy and paste from this website or any other, because I have been the person in the hiring position and seen unusual wording. And yes, heck yeah, I copy and paste that into Google and see where it came from. If I have any concerns that it doesn't kind of flow with the rest of the resume. So definitely don't recommend copying and pasting from this or your job description. So another resource you can use is the resume assistant option. It's connected to LinkedIn, and it's pulling from LinkedIn profiles. I had the role already pulled up, medical assistant. You can add an industry. So we could say hospice or pediatrics, whatever this person is applying to, and it will pull, and it pulls from actual LinkedIn profiles and gives you an idea what people are talking about. So I really like this one. It managed and oversaw medical care for 500 patients monthly. Okay, great. Scheduling appointments and addressing concerns. Use the software to manage the records, 100% accuracy. Wow. Coach and mentor, 15 team members. That's awesome. And so that number, 15 team members, that could be over a 5-year period, whatever it might be. You can add that up, and it makes it a little bit more impressive when you have a big number going over a longer period of time. So this is just another great resource that can help you generate some ideas. And lastly, there's another section that sometimes people put in their resumes. Now, this is a great, if you have a job that your main skills maybe aren't technical, but they're going to be important. So something like teaching, you need to know how to use a computer. You might need to know how to use a smartboard, things like that. But your teaching skills, your interpersonal skills are going to be even more important. So we might put this section at the bottom of the resume just to go into a little bit more depth. And if we needed to add these keywords, or if we need to give a little bit more information about our technical skills. So we have Microsoft Office, and then we list the different types that the writer knows that you know what to do. Sometimes people want Microsoft Office Suite, and that includes a lot of things that people don't often use, like Access or SharePoint. So I try to stay away from that as much as possible. Web-based application. So do you know something that, again, might seem very easy to you? It might be very natural for you to use a website like SurveyMonkey. That's a big one. If you have a proprietary software where you're like, oh, I can't put this certain software because only my company used it, it was made for my company, this is a great way to label it. Was that a database? Yeah. So let's just label it as such. And so they know, oh, I've never heard of this, but I know this person can use a database. And so that kind of, again, paints the picture for the reader a little bit better. Customer relationship management. Again, that's another example of a proprietary software. Human resources software. This is another way you could just lump things together. So Chronos is timekeeping. This is kind of, it's called asset management. We're talking about counting people, all these different things. So you have different functions within human resources, but we could just label them all, and maybe that's the best way to group them together. So thank you for hanging in with me for so long. I hope this has been useful to you. I hope it's giving you something more to think about. And we really want to focus on that high impact, high quality resume that is not generic and with a lot of fillers. So again, less is more in the resume. We just want to keep the highlights of your job. We don't need to talk about what every single day looked like. It's like social media. We're just going to show the best parts of your life, and they're going to think your whole life is great. And people can be Instagram jealous and all that good stuff. But we're just, same concept. So again, just showing those highlights, those punchy pieces. And I hope that this helps you understand what you might want to do going forward, and maybe identified areas that you want to grow in more, so you have more good resume fodder, as we say, and help you go seek those opportunities, especially if you're not getting them at work. If there's some other kind of education, training, experience that you need going outside your workplace to get that, so you can move on and be where you want to be. Thank you for hanging in. Again, I'm so proud of you for doing this hard work. I know it's not fun. You have one more section to go. We're going to format this. We're going to make it pretty. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to proof it. And I'll just show you some quick tips for that. See you soon.